Once upon a time in a kingdom far away, there lived an evil god who demands a sacrifice each year from the people, and they were forced to obey out of fear. To appease this vicious god, they offered only the brightest humans with exceptional skills, for the kingdom believed this was the only way to survive. Now, on the eve of the ritual ceremony, everyone in town gossips that this year's sacrificial lamb will be a kind girl named Alicia. Meanwhile, in a tower, the knights lock Alicia away in preparation for the ritual ceremony the next day. While inside the tower, the knights urges her not to disappoint, saying the kingdom depends on her, and Alicia accepts her duty with a trembling heart. Suddenly, a knock at the window startles her. It's the protagonist, Elt, her childhood friend, who sneaks in through the window to see her one last time. When Elt asks Alicia if she's truly okay, she smiles at first, pretending to be strong. But soon, she weeps bitterly and finally admits the truth that she doesn't want to die. Elt embraces her, trying to console her, but deep down, he knows she doesn't deserve such a cruel fate. Even so, Alicia forces a smile, trying to hide her pain, and tells him to leave. But at that moment, Elt, having seen through her facade, makes up his mind to do something quickly about the sacrifice. So the next day, the ritual ceremony begins under heavy security as knights restrict the citizens from coming close to Alicia. Still, that doesn't stop the people from weeping as Alicia is led to the ritual circle. But just when the priest orders Alicia to step inside the ritual circle, chaos erupts. Elt suddenly dashes forward, faster than the guards can react, and rushes straight into the ritual circle in place of Alicia, leaving her in shock. At that moment, the ritual completes with a blinding light, and the young man is instantly pulled into the castle of the evil god. As Elt cautiously moves inside the castle, he hears an ominous voice saying it has been patiently waiting for this day to come. Just then, the evil god reveals himself, asking Elt if he is this year's sacrifice. When Elt confirms that he is, the evil god analyzes him and is shocked to see that the boy is nothing but a lowly townsman with all his stats sitting at 5. And his only useful skill is agriculture. This makes the skeletal god furious that the humans will send him useless garbage as a sacrifice, and demands to know if this is some kind of sick joke or something. Before Elt can even explain, the evil god is already conjuring deadly power to blast him to Neverland. Realizing he is about to die the worst way possible, Elt desperately begs his hidden unique ability to awaken. At that moment, Elt's unique ability, known as Stock, awakens deep inside him and flows into his hands. Just when the evil god's attack hits, light swirls around the boy's body and deflects the strike. Seeing this, the evil god is shocked that his ultimate attack has failed to erase the young man standing before him. This makes the skeletal monster even more enraged, so he calls Elt a useless worm and launches another attack with even greater intensity this time. But once again, instead of crushing the boy, the destructive force seeps into Elt's body as though it had been absorbed. Somehow, Elt realizes that his unique ability, Stock, allows him to capture the abilities and powers of others. This time, he absorbs the evil god's most devastating attack and makes it part of his own arsenal. With this, Elt counters, blasting the evil god with its own power, and in the blink of an eye, the sacrifice-hungry god vanishes without a trace. With the god defeated, Elt is shocked to see all his abilities dramatically increase. Looking around the castle, Elt sees bling-bling littered all over the ground and begins gathering. Even though the relics seem heavy, the boy manages to steal the evil god's crown, staff, and some beautiful bracelets, and then decides to test if his Stock ability can store them. In an instant, the weight vanishes as the items disappear into his inventory. Overjoyed, Elt realizes he can now carry as much as he wants without worrying about strength or burden. So he rushes deeper into the castle, and as he pushes open a massive door, his eyes widen at the sight of endless treasure piled high. Gold, weapons, armor, and jewels glittering everywhere, all belonging to the humans sacrificed before him. After carefully stocking up most of the treasures in his inventory, Elt puts on fresh gear, replacing his tattered clothes, and then decides to teleport back to the outside world. But unfortunately, the light fades and nothing happens, making Elt realize that the circle is a one-way door, which means he might be trapped in the enemy's castle forever. Panicking, he wonders what to do next, and starts scouring the huge fortress for a way out. After hours of walking tirelessly inside the evil god's massive castle, Elt finally sees a huge door at the end of a long hall. The moment he pushes it open, sunlight floods his vision. Relieved to finally be free, Elt steps outside, but his joy doesn't last long. High stone walls surround the castle, taller than the trees and impossible to climb barehanded. As he searches for a way out, Elt sees strange fruits from the evil god's orchard, which he takes a cautious bite of. To his surprise, the flavor is incredible, better than anything he's tasted. Instantly, the fruit raises his stats. Strength, defense, intelligence, agility, and even charm begin to climb with every bite. So he stores most of the fruits in his inventory. Soon after, he spots barrels of wine, which he stacks on top of each other to climb over the high fence. Elt finally makes it outside the evil castle, but after wandering the forest for hours, he comes face to face with a fearsome-looking ogre. The ogre roars angrily, ready to attack, and Elt's first thought is to escape immediately. But suddenly, he notices a pretty cloaked girl lying helpless and unconscious on the ground, directly in harm's way. Even though Elt wants to run, pity overwhelms him. So he pulls a sword from his inventory and steps forward, determined to confront the beast. Elt steadies his sword, but for a moment, he is filled with doubt since he's never truly fought with a blade, only toyed with one as a child. He wonders if he should use the evil beam he used earlier in defeating the evil king, but reasons he cannot, not when a single mistake could harm the unconscious girl lying on the ground. The terrifying ogre lunges forward and swings its massive club, but surprisingly, Elt manages to dodge the brutal attack, and for the first time he feels like he might actually stand a chance. So he counters with a desperate strike, and his blade manages to scrape the ogre's thick hide. But the cut is shallow, barely more than a scratch, further frustrating him. At that moment, the unconscious girl wakes from slumberland, and the instant the ogre notices, the beast swings its massive club at her. But Elt dives in at the last second, dragging her away from danger as the club smashes against the trees with terrifying force. As the beast roars again, preparing for another devastating swing, the terrified girl begs Elt to escape. She explains in horror that the bloody ogre is a monster so fierce that even her village's strongest warriors struggle to drive it away. Even so, the protagonist sees it as more reason to bring the beast down. The girl warns him that his blade is on the other side, behind the monster, and suggests he just give up. But Elt tells her he no longer needs the blade and cautions her to duck for what comes next. As the monster charges with its club raised high, Elt finally makes the choice he's been avoiding, blasting the freakish creature with the evil king's beam. The powerful flash tears through the ogre's chest, and its massive body collapses with a smoking hole carved straight through his heart. With the monster defeated, Elt decides to take its horns as a valuable item that might come in handy, while the girl, shocked by his power, wonders what in the world the boy truly is. So Elt introduces himself and then calmly asks for her name. With a charming smile, the girl takes off her hood and introduces herself as Serena, an elf, shocking Elt, who has never seen an elf before. Serena then thanks Elt for saving her and explains she was just gathering herbs to treat her sick father before she was attacked. When Elt asks where exactly they are, Serena reveals they are in the Forest of Confusion, known to be the home of the elves, but a place avoided by humans because it traps humans who enters. Hearing this, Elt is shocked to realize that the magic circle has teleported him far away from his country. When he starts to panic about how he's going to return, Serena insists on taking him to her village to formally thank him for saving her. At first, Elt hesitates, aware he's a stranger in dangerous territory. But when the pretty girl smiles and promises to introduce him to everyone, his resistance fades. For the first time since leaving the evil king's castle, Elt is excited to meet people he can actually talk to. Soon, they arrive at the hidden elven settlement, where Serena's brother immediately rushes to meet her, explaining how worried he had been. When Serena narrates how she was abducted by the bloody ogre, her brother, all hyped up, immediately rallies all the villagers to go after the beast. But when Elt shows them the beast's horns, explaining that he had already taken care of the monster, the elves cannot believe their eyes or their ears. They call Elt a comedian, insisting there's no way a dude built like a mosquito could ever defeat the mighty ogre. But Serena immediately steps up to defend her hero, saying that even though the little guy doesn't look like much, he really did save her and defeat the monster. Her brother, though still doubtful, then tells her to go show the Stickman boy to the village chief. Serena agrees and drags Elt along to the chief's location. But Elt feels uneasy, especially with all the suspicious dagger stares from the elves, which makes him wonder if he's truly welcome there. Finally, they arrive at a house perched high within a giant tree, which Serena points out as the village chief's residence. After climbing the ladder to the top, they enter the treehouse and meet a frail-looking elder, whom Serena introduces as her father, Yomi, the village chief. Elt bows politely, introducing himself and apologizing for arriving uninvited. But then he notices the old elf's sharp gaze. It's different from the others. It isn't filled with malice. Instead, it's almost as if the old golem can see straight into his soul. Suddenly, Yomi chuckles and asks Serena if she came to report about marrying the human she has brought before him. Serena blushes hard and Elt nearly chokes in disbelief. But noticing the tension, Yomi bursts into laughter, saying he was only joking. Nevertheless, Yomi notes how strange it is for the young man to radiate such an aura. Looking at Elt, who is emitting such an intense presence, the village chief explains that aura is a power unique only to elves. Serena, watching closely, agrees, admitting that she has also been intrigued by Elt since the very first moment they met. Elt is confused, wondering if Serena also has the power to see his aura. But suddenly, Serena leans closer, calling him a mysterious guy, and demands to know who he really is and how he acquired such an intense aura. Elt gets flustered by her close interrogation and admits he is also clueless. Before Serena can press further, the old village chief interrupts, asking what her report is about. Serena then hurriedly reports how Elt defeated the bloody ogre in mere moments. The revelation silences the room, but Yomi doesn't seem very impressed. When Serena questions why he isn't impressed, Yomi simply explains that after living so long and gaining years of experience, nothing baffles him anymore. Still, the old elf adds that with the determination he sees in the young man's eyes, he believes that Elt actually did it. As leader of the clan, he sincerely thanks Elt for defeating the monster that tormented his people for years, and then declares that a feast will be held to celebrate both his victory and survival. Overjoyed, Elt smiles warmly, feeling that he has finally been accepted. Later, Elt is given a room to relax before the feast, and while resting, he checks his status and realizes that defeating the bloody ogre has raised his level drastically. Suddenly, he hears a knock at the door, and when he opens it, he is shocked to see Serena's brother, who walks inside, introduces himself as Phil, and apologizes for his earlier coldness toward him. Phil then thanks Elt sincerely for saving his sister, and admits the little guy is quite different from the legends he grew up hearing. Phil explains that, according to legend, there was once a war between elves and humans centuries ago, and because of the bloodshed, the elves still harbor deep mistrust against humans. Even so, Phil grabs Elt's hands and reassures him that Serena has been telling everyone how kind he truly is, and that alone is enough to make them start treating him like family. Elt feels relieved after hearing this and is impressed by how kind Serena is. But before he can fully relax, a disgusting smell suddenly hits Phil, forcing him to ask the Elt when last he washed his filthy body. Embarrassed, Elt in turn asks if he really stinks, but Phil can't even reply due to the horrible stench. Instead, Phil quickly guides him to the elves' hidden hot spring to bathe before the feast. Sinking into the steaming water, Elt sighs in bliss, marveling at how quickly life can change. Just days ago, he was offered as a useless sacrifice, and now he's soaking under the stars in an elf village. Still, thoughts of Alicia tug at his heart, and he wonders if she is safe, wishing he could tell her he survived. But as his worries deepen, he hears someone enter the spring, startling him. Glancing up, Elt freaks out when he sees Serena standing before him, with no plot armor and smiling innocently. Serena then moves closer to Elt with her exposed melons, saying the moment is perfect because she wants to talk quietly with him, away from the noise of the village. But the virgin boy keeps his distance from her, struggling to handle her closeness. When Serena notices his awkwardness and asks what's wrong, Elt stammers, apologizing for seeing her bare body. But his words surprise the girl, who tells him not to worry, reminding him that in a bath, being bare is only natural. To prove it, she even points at the animals soaking happily nearby, acting as if nothing is unusual. This makes Elt sigh, realizing he might really be the awkward one here for reacting so strongly. With her heart pounding, Serena then makes the moment tender as she asks Elt who he really is and where he comes from, saying she only wishes to know him better. Pressed by her sincerity, Elt finally opens up. He admits he is just a nobody, the son of farmers with no ties to swords or magic. Everything he does now, he says, is only him imitating his childhood friend Alicia, whom he deeply admires. When Elt starts talking about Alicia and how kind she was to him and everyone in the village, Serena gets jealous and starts acting like a maniac, surprising Elt. Her sudden outburst forces Elt to calmly excuse himself from the spring, leaving her alone sitting by the water, wondering why she suddenly feels this way toward the young man. After dressing up, Elt returns to his room, but before he can even catch his breath, some elves burst inside, informing him that the banquet preparations are ready. So Elt heads to the banquet and is caught off guard by the glowing lights drifting through the night air. At first, he mistakes them for insects, but their beauty quickly proves otherwise. When he sees pretty elven girls laughing and dancing gracefully under the lights, Elt feels like he's inside a dream and quietly wishes Alicia were there to see such a sight. Just then, Serena calls out, waving him over with a radiant smile. She insists he shouldn't hide away, pulling him into the center of the fun. Pushed into a seat, Elt is showered with food, urged to eat and enjoy himself. The taste surprises him. It's so delicious he can't stop smiling. But his peace doesn't last long as a group of tasty elf girls pounce on him, calling him a hero and begging to hear stories of his battles. Elt flushes red, trying to wave off the title, but the girls on heat just won't let him be. This makes Serena jealous and furious as she shouts at all of them, reminding them it was Elt who saved her. But her reaction only makes them tease her even more, accusing her of wanting the boy's anaconda all to herself. But before things can get heated, Yomi interrupts, informing Elt that the guys are performing and asking if he wants to watch. Instantly, Elt agrees and slips away from the desperate girls to the open field, where he sees Phil and another elf dude showcasing their strength in a mock sword fight. Phil completely destroys the weaker opponent, and Elt is surprised at just how skilled Serena's brother is. When no one else dares to challenge Phil, he suddenly steps toward Elt and challenges him outright, saying he wants to witness the power that defeated the bloody ogre. Elt is shocked by the challenge and tries to laugh it off, explaining that his sword skills are worse than a Disney princess. But Phil refuses to back down, insisting that excessive modesty is just another form of arrogance. The crowd erupts in chants, eager to see the best swordsman in the village duel the ogre-slaying hero. So with no way out, Elt is left with no choice but to man up. To ease his nerves, Phil assures him the duel won't be anything serious, just playful and fun. So Elt is then handed a wooden sword, but the moment the elder signals the start of the duel, Phil is already charging with overwhelming force like he is battling his greatest enemy. Elt barely manages to block his first blow and is surprised the guy is targeting his sensitive areas. Phil smirks, impressed by his resistance, and then taunts Elt, asking what his next move will be. Before Elt can even respond, the guy is charging again with even sharper strikes this time. Realizing that Elt is only defending, Phil mocks him for dodging without attacking while the protagonist is terrified seeing that the guy's eyes hold no trace of laughter, only a cold, deadly focus. But what he doesn't know is that, in Phil's mind, rage is fueling every strike. Phil is furious at him for deceiving his sister and stealing the attention of all the babes, and silently vows never to forgive him. With that, Phil attacks with so much anger in his heart, while Elt gasps, realizing this is no longer child's play. At that moment, Elt hears the crowd calling him a sissy for just defending and never striking back. And when Phil also steps forward confidently, urging him to attack seriously, Elt's resolve hardens. His playful expression shifts to determination as he realizes that holding back could get him seriously hurt. Meanwhile, back at the party, Serena is still pouting in jealousy over how the girls flirted with Elt. So the girls try to calm her down, offering sweets and jokes, but she insists she isn't angry. Suddenly, one girl rushes in with excitement, announcing that Phil and the human are fighting, urging everyone to come watch. This makes Serena freeze, and her heart skips a beat at the thought of Elt clashing with her brother. Back on the battleground, Phil and Elt continue their fierce duel, and the crowd is loving every second of it. Elt quickly realizes this is no simple exhibition, and despite the playful atmosphere, he reasons Phil is seriously testing to see his true ability. After defeating the bloody ogre, he knows he can't afford to stay on the defensive forever. If he doesn't fight back, Phil won't be satisfied, so he has to counterattack somehow. The moment Elt finally strikes back, Phil smiles, loving it, and welcomes the challenge, calling for him to come harder, faster. That's when Elt remembers his one hidden edge, his unique ability to mimic movements, even if imperfectly. Step by step, he begins to mirror Phil's technique, his speed, and his timing, surprising Phil, who is shocked to see the boy moving just like him. At that exact moment, Serena arrives and pushes through the excited crowd. When she manages to get to the front, she desperately shouts Phil's name, ordering him to stop the fight. But her voice is drowned out by the cheers, forcing her to rush straight to her father to end the madness. That doesn't help either, since even with no eyes, the old rat is somehow watching the fight, saying it's a wonderful fight. Meanwhile, Elt's strikes grow sharper and more focused as he continues to mimic Phil's sword style. And for the first time, Phil's confident smirk vanishes, seeing that his own technique is coming back at him. Confused, he asks Elt if he's copying his moves, and Elt gets embarrassed by the question, thinking everyone will see him as a useless copycat. But when he shyly admits that he is, Phil laughs it off, saying it's actually the first time anyone has ever copied his style, and then calls Elt a strange guy for pulling it off. When Elt mentions that Serena had also called him that back in the hot spring, Phil almost loses it, hearing that the boy was in the hot spring with his sister. Enraged, Phil explains that his sister is a good girl, and over the years, countless suitors have tried courting her, but he rejected them all with his sword because he would never let her marry a weakling. With a burst of wind, Phil declares Elt no better than the rest of the weaklings and vows his sister will never be his, even if he saved her life. Elt is shocked beyond words as a spirit suddenly appears, swirling around Phil with untamed energy. With a proud smirk, Phil introduces it as his wind spirit, and then ridicules Elt, saying that no matter his odd abilities, he could never copy spirit magic. The elves watching gasp in fear, shouting for everyone to step back as Phil prepares to unleash his trump card. Without holding back, Phil swings his blade, and the spirit's wind power surges forward in a violent storm. The attack rips through the air with terrifying speed, forcing Elt to leap back in panic. Elt's heart starts to race as he realizes the sheer destructive force could end him instantly, even before he has time to heal. But Phil isn't stopping anytime soon. He demands that Elt show his true strength or get shredded apart like paper. So Elt braces himself and tries to attack, but Phil's wind barrier makes it impossible to even land a blow. Desperate, Elt thinks quickly, wondering if there's any way he can store or counter spirit magic. But since spirit magic isn't a skill, he can't. Just then, Serena suddenly steps into the battleground. Everyone yells desperately for her to get out of there, but the girl refuses to back down. Phil is already smiling, thinking his sister is there to support him, but his smile quickly fades when Serena starts sucking the air like a human vacuum cleaner and then screams for Elt to strike now. Seizing the chance, the protagonist attacks his opponent with one swift motion and lands a decisive slash across his back, knocking Phil unconscious instantly. Everyone is stunned and then erupts into cheers, unable to believe the little human has defeated their strongest warrior. But Elt, still catching his breath, wonders quietly if this can truly be called a victory. Unable to contain her excitement, Serena immediately rushes to him, throwing her arms around his neck and apologizing for her crazy brother's attitude. But Elt brushes it off, asking her not to worry. Later that night, the elves gather around Elt praising his skill, and even those who once doubted him admit he fought on par with the best. Meanwhile, Phil lies sulking in bed after Serena scolds him. The party continues with music and wine, and everyone drinks to their fill. Even Yomi isn't left out of the fun. The warm reception touches Elt, reminding him that back home, only Alicia had cared for him, yet here in this village, they welcome him as one of their own. But while Elt enjoys himself in the elven village, the complete opposite unfolds in the kingdom of Irkutsk. There, Alicia wakes from a nightmare, shouting Elt's name and crying profusely. Every night since his sacrifice, she dreams of him. Guilt eats away at her heart, believing that if she hadn't shown weakness, Elt wouldn't have given his life. Desperate for closure, Alicia leaves home that night and walks to the transfer gate, the one that should have closed long ago when the sacrifice disappeared. But when her hand accidentally brushes against it, the circle flickers faintly with power. Alicia can't believe it. Her eyes widen in shock as she begins to wonder if Elt is still alive, since the gate still works. The thought of this brings back touching memories of the past. Alicia remembers their childhood, when she was injured and crying alone in the forest, begging for help. Just when she thought no one would come, a boy appeared. It was Elt who rushed to carry her out of the dangerous forest, saying he couldn't bear the thought of her crying and promising he'd always come whenever she called. That promise carried her through the years, and now, even after his sacrifice, she still feels it. Meanwhile, back in the present, the scene shifts to the royal council, where a prophet reveals shocking news. The young man named Elt is alive. Alicia's heart leaps with joy until she hears there's a catch. He's far west, deep inside the lost forest, territory of Erevan. The council panics as one man reminds everyone that the lost forest is a deadly place, crawling with vicious monsters, while another fat chub blurts out if another sacrifice should be sent since the first is still alive. But the king silences his stupid burger mouth, declaring that if the first doesn't die, then no additional human can be sent in his place. Still, the fat guy doesn't know when to quit, continuing to argue that the sacrifice may already be captured or worse. Alicia's chest tightens as she listens to them talk about Elt like he's already gone. But that's when the princess of the kingdom, Alice, shuts the diabetes for good, warning him to be careful with his words. Princess Alice declares it a clear anomaly for Elt to survive. Until now, there are no signs of disaster or additional demands from the evil god. She insists they need to investigate and suggests sending a team to the Lost Forest or a small elite force, nothing loud, so as not to provoke the Erevan force. But when the council hesitates, calling it too risky, Alice silences them with a bold claim, saying she'll go herself. She reminds everyone that no one in the kingdom can wield a sword better than her, and then seeks the approval of the king, her father. Before the king can speak, Princess Alice continues. She admits she hasn't forgiven herself for escaping the sacrifice just because she is royalty, so by doing this, she will regain her pride as a member of the royal family. The king ponders briefly before agreeing to let Princess Alice lead the investigation, though he warns her to be careful. So the princess immediately leaves the council chamber to prepare for the mission, but Alicia quickly runs after her. With a pounding heart, she begs Princess Alice to take her along, insisting she can use healing magic and that she knows Elt better than anyone. At first, Princess Alice refuses, saying she will take the court mage as a healer instead, and then advises Alicia to go marry some noble now that she is free. But Alicia refuses to back down, declaring that she wants to see Elt, no matter the danger. Her eyes burn with resolve as she swears she has something important to tell him. Stunned by her courage, Princess Alice finally agrees with a wink and appoints Alicia as her squire, shocking everyone around them. Deep down, Princess Alice is curious about Elt, the man who could inspire a saint like Alicia to move mountains. Meanwhile, Alicia is already rushing forward, excited, promising that this time she'll run to Elt. In the elf village, Elt wakes to an unexpected scene. Serena and Phil cling tightly to him in their sleep, mumbling his name as if he's their comfort. Questioning his life choices, Elt carefully untangles himself from the messy knot of arms and steps outside, sitting in deep thought. The duel with Phil weighs heavily on his mind. He knows that in a real battle he wouldn't have survived. Determined, he vows to grow stronger for the journey ahead. But just then, the old minion approaches, asking if he's lost in thought, before offering to teach him spiritual magic. Elt admits he feels helpless at the moment and agrees, saying he will need new power if he's ever going to find a way home. Yomi understands his desperation, but explains the truth first, that spirit magic requires forming a contract with a spirit that lives in nature, and the key to making this contract possible is a power called the charm. Hearing this, Elt instantly remembers the rainbow berry he ate back in the evil king's forest, the one that boosted his charm far beyond normal limits. Yomi adds that those who possess high charm can emit an aura that attracts spirits, and the stronger the charm, the stronger the aura, and ultimately the more powerful the spirit that can be contracted. The explanation hits Elt hard. If charm attracts spirits, then if he can raise his charm, there's a possibility that he can also increase his aura too. Serena quickly warns him it's dangerous, begging him to stay in the elf village forever. But Elt shakes his head and then pulls out a pile of rainbow berries from his inventory. With no shame, the guy devours them all, like a starved vegetarian. Once he's done, energy starts surging around him, and his aura bursts outward in a shockwave that shakes the entire area. Serena is shocked at what she is witnessing, struggling to understand what just happened. Determined, Elt tells her he'll keep getting stronger so she never has to worry, and then pleads with her to trust him. But Serena is left speechless, wondering why the boy is so driven. Soon, glowing motes of microspirits begin to gather around Elt, drawn by his overwhelming aura, leaving him confused. Serena then steps in to guide him, telling him to focus and draw the aura inward. Concentrating hard, Elt steadies the light, and Serena is impressed, realizing the young man truly has potential. Deciding she can't leave him alone, she offers to help since she is also a spirit user. Elt gets excited at the offer, but Yomi quickly warns him. With such a powerful aura, normal spirits will fear contracting with him. Instead, he'll have to seek out higher beings, possibly even a great spirit. With that, the group sets out for the Valley of the Winds, a place swarming with wind spirits. When they arrive, Serena immediately warns Elt that many elves have lost their lives here and advises him to run the moment he senses danger. Elt assures her he understands, eager to meet the spirits dwelling in the valley. But deep within the gorge, the wind spirit king, Valsetti, watches silently from the shadows, and with cold resolve she declares that those unworthy of power will pay the price. Meanwhile, back in the wind forest, Serena summons her spirit, Asa, to light the way, and a small, cheerful, glowing figure appears, ready to help. When Elt, curious about this strange spirit, asks about it, Serena explains that elves give names to the spirit they make a contract with. She also adds that she has contracts with other spirits, lower ones that follow her guidance. Now as they move deeper, Serena begins teaching Elt the basics. Spirits, she says, are ranked by strength. The lowest wander aimlessly, while the stronger ones take form and follow orders. She mentions her brother's contract with an intermediate spirit and explains how rare it is to bond with advanced ones. Elt nods, soaking in every word, until Serena reveals that only a handful of elves in history have ever contracted with an advanced spirit, and her father is one of them. Walking along the cliffside, Serena warns Elt again that advanced spirits are rare and dangerous, and they might even fight back if they sense weakness. She further explains that the stronger a spirit grows, the more humanoid it becomes, making them easier to spot, and then advises Elt to emit his aura once he finds a spirit he wishes to form a contract with. To prove he understands, Elt focuses his aura, but his power surges out far too strongly, making Serena panic. His sudden outburst awakens the sleeping king of the wind deep within her cave, who bitterly complains of being disturbed by their noise. Suddenly, a strong gust erupts, startling Serena. Elt rushes to her side, asking if she's okay. Serena says she's fine, but warns that things will only get worse now that they're approaching the bottom. When she asks if he's ready to take the risk, Elt answers firmly that he is, since they've come this far. However, Serena grows uncomfortable, realizing she'll have to rely on her wind spirit's protection to get them down, which requires her to stay very close to him. Blushing, she presses tightly against Elt, and the boy's face immediately reddens in shock, wondering what is going on while Serena tries to hide her embarrassment. But together, shielded by the spirit's power, they descend deeper into the valley. As they move downward, Elt can't help but notice how flustered Serena seems. Meanwhile, Serena steals glances at him, her heart racing. For her, this closeness with someone outside her family is unfamiliar and overwhelming, and trusting him like this makes every step harder to bear. At the bottom of the valley, with the winds growing harsher, Serena urges Elt to try releasing his aura once more to see if he can attract any spirit. So Elt focuses, and this time he is able to control his aura outburst. Still no spirit appears. Then suddenly, the winds rage violently, almost like a cyclone tearing through the valley. Still, Elt and Serena push forward cautiously, relying on Serena's spirit's blessings to stay grounded. Without them, they'd already have been swept into the air. Elt admits he couldn't have made it this far alone and thanks Serena. Serena blushes but insists he doesn't need to thank her. After all, he once saved her life too. Even so, she teases that she isn't fully convinced about him becoming a spirit user. When Elt asks if it's because it's dangerous for humans, Serena shyly admits it's because she can't help but miss him dearly if he chooses to return home. Just then, Serena turns to Elt with a flushed cheeks and tries confessing how she feels. But before the words fully leave her lips, the ground suddenly shakes, and the Wind King roars at them for making too much noise. Elt instantly senses danger and quickly shields Serena, shouting at her to get down. A violent storm of wind tears through the valley, but the two crash to the ground, narrowly avoiding the full strike. When the dust clears, the Wind King rumbles through the valley, warning them that the attack was just a mere warning and urging them to turn back if they still love their lives. She threatens that if they don't, they'll experience the full force of her strongest tornado. But Elt bravely apologizes for intruding, saying they only came for the spirits, and then insists on seeing who is speaking. Valsetti warns him not to cower when he sees her terrifying form, and then steps into the light with her massive claws digging into the earth. When she finally reveals herself, Elt and Serena freeze in awe, realizing that their attacker is a freaking dragon. Trembling, Serena asks if she is a spirit, and Valsetti proudly replies that she is not just a spirit but the Wind Spirit King. The name instantly rings a bell, so Serena hurriedly explains to Elt that Valsetti is one of the 6 great spirits and begs that they go home immediately. But instead of retreating, the young man questions whether one can make a contract with a spirit king. Serena yells, asking what the heck he's talking about, and warns him that even though it's possible, her father once told her that only a truly suitable contractor can pull it off, otherwise they'll die. Regardless of whether he will survive or not, Elt declares he is determined to try. The Wind Dragon King laughs at his boldness, hearing that the little guy wants to make a contract with her, and then calls it utter nonsense. Enraged, Valsetti roars that she decided long ago never to be ruled by anyone. Realizing Valsetti isn't under any contract only makes Elt even more eager to forge one with her. Even though Serena begs that they go home, insisting it isn't safe, Elt sees this as his only chance to grow stronger. So he starts taunting the dragon, demanding to know why a spirit would hate humans so much. His words strike a nerve, and Valsetti cannot believe she's being challenged by a worthless human. Still, Elt doesn't stop provoking her. When he calls the Dragon King a tyrant for attacking without listening, Serena panics, urging him not to provoke her further, but Elt stands firm. As Valsetti unleashes her massive storm once again in fury, Elt smiles. This is exactly what he's been waiting for. The moment the winds gather, forming a raging vortex, Elt answers instantly, activating Store, and with one command, the raging storm vanishes before everyone's eyes. The Wind King reels in shock while Serena stares wide-eyed, realizing Elt just canceled out the attack of a Spirit King. Meanwhile, our boy smirks and raises his hand, announcing he'll now use his own power next. The cavern lights up as Elt unleashes the Wind King's tornado back at her, forcing the mighty spirit to stagger in unbelievable shock. After the terrifying blast, Elt is stunned to see the once proud Wind King trembling at his feet, unable to comprehend how a mere human could wield such an ability. Fear takes over her pride, and she cries out in surrender, begging Elt not to shoot again. But Elt replies that the only way he'll stop is if she forms a contract with him, which she instantly agrees to. But first, she says she has to return to her original form to form a proper contract. So in a swirl of light, the monstrous dragon transforms. Elt and Serena are shocked speechless to see the Spirit King, who moments ago was terrifying, now looks like a bunny girl. Valsetti shyly reveals that this form is her true appearance, then explains the reason she hates transforming into it is because humans always mocked her whenever she showed it. But the protagonist isn't about to waste more time on emotional chatter, so he asks if they can quickly proceed with the contract now that she's returned to her original form. Valsetti shakes her head and reveals this isn't her true form at all. She explains that thousands of years ago, she was cursed into this rabbit body and has been stuck with it ever since. Still, she assures him she can perform the ritual despite her appearance. Serena, however, warns Elt not to let his guard down, finding it impossible to believe that someone could actually curse the Wind Spirit King. but Valsetti insists it's a misunderstanding, explaining that Valsetti is just a name humans invented after she rejected them too many times in her dragon form. Her true name, given to her by her former master, is Marie. When Elt asks why she keeps refusing new masters and distrusts contracts so much, Marie cries out that she hates forming them because they threaten human lives. She reminds him that if he attempts the ritual and fails, he'll die just like the others before him. That fear has haunted her for centuries, and she refuses to take responsibility for any more deaths. After the touching explanation, Marie breaks down in tears, begging to be left alone. Elt, shaken by her words, suddenly has a flashback of his past. He remembers how Alicia always worried for him after his parents died, even when he tried to push her away. Since Alicia was treasured by everyone as the healer, Elt felt the difference between her and someone like him. A talentless loser was huge, so he tried to distance himself. But no matter how many times he pushed her away, Alicia refused to leave him. She kept coming back, begging him not to close his heart to her. Back in the present, Elt feels a connection with Marie. He realizes she must have felt something similar to his own loneliness, and then tells her that he understands her pain. Even so, he won't give up here, or she'll just be alone again, and so, he declares that he will definitely form this contract. With that, Serena steps in, guiding him through the ritual, and tells him to repeat the words after her since it's his first time. Standing firm, Elt says he is ready, and the contract ceremony begins. Elt begins the contract ritual, calmly declaring his name and offering one in return. A dazzling aura shines around him, leaving Marie stunned. Marie also introduces herself as the Wind Spirit King, swearing to walk by Elt's side as his ally. Just then, the energy of the ritual flows between them, and their auras intertwine. As the bond deepens, Marie's past memories spill into Elt's mind. He sees her previous contractor and realizes he's witnessing her history through the contract. He feels the warmth she once felt when her master called her by name, but also the sorrow when she lost him. In his mind, he sees the vision of the wicked god spreading chaos and destruction, and how her former master fought desperately but eventually died. In his final moments, the master urged her to escape, even as the curse of the wicked god took hold. Elt reels from the vision, realizing the one who cursed Marie was none other than the evil god. He feels the pain Marie has carried for 1,000 years. But as the ceremony continues, Alicia's voice echoes faintly in his heart, begging him to stay strong. Suddenly, Marie begins shedding tears, realizing that Elt has already defeated the evil god and avenged her master, while Elt is surprised to know she can also glimpse his memories. Marie smiles through her tears, comforted that her suffering has been seen and shared. With that, the contract is sealed, and Elt is recognized as the new vessel of the Wind Spirit King. As proof of their bond, Serena reminds Elt that he must give Marie a name, but Elt insists on not changing it. Though it once belonged to her previous master, he says it's precious and should remain hers. Marie's heart warms at his words. To finalize the ritual, Serena says they must touch to complete the contract. Overcome with emotion at finally getting a new master, Marie throws her arms around Elt, thanking him with all her heart. In her joy, she even seals it with a sudden kiss on his cheek, leaving Elt flustered and Serena shocked. But before they can process it, the cavern begins to collapse from the earlier battle. Elt panics and urges everyone to flee, but Marie quickly tells them to trust her and hold on to her body. Once they obey, she unleashes a strong wind that catapults them into the sky. Elt and Serena stare in shock, realizing they are actually flying, while Marie looks determined, guiding them safely through the air. The team eventually escapes just in time, moments before the cave completely collapses. Once outside, Serena sighs in relief, thankful they survived. Meanwhile, the sunlight feels dazzling to Marie, who hasn't seen the surface in ages. But their brief relief is cut short when a massive bull suddenly charges at them, horns lowered to ram. Elt and Serena tense up, ready to fight, but Marie steps forward with fierce resolve. She whips up a powerful tornado, sweeping the beast off its feet before it can even reach her master. Soon after, the group returns to the village. Word spreads quickly, and everyone is shocked to learn Elt has formed a contract with the Wind Spirit King. Marie, however, insists she doesn't like being called that and asks them to call her by her chosen name, Marie. Later, Yomi pulls Elt aside and gently asks if he still plans to leave someday. Elt admits he will, though not immediately, since he still has preparations to make. So the elder reminds him to be ready when that time comes and offers his house for him to stay in until then. Meanwhile, Serena watches quietly, torn by the thought of saying goodbye to Elt and the unspoken feelings deep in her heart. Weeks later, deep in the forest of confusion, Elt gathers the herbs Serena requested to make medicine for Yomi's illness. It feels tedious to check the herbs one by one, so he experiments with his stock ability. To his surprise, it works on everything within sight, pulling all the herbs at once into his storage. Marie excitedly cheers him on, impressed by his skill, and asks if it's the same ability he used to defeat the evil god, to which Elt proudly confirms it is. As they work, a sudden threat appears. A griffin swoops down from above, ready to strike. Marie reacts instantly, whipping up a gust of wind to shield them while Elt steps forward with his blade, and together they take down the beast in perfect coordination. Catching his breath, Elt thanks Marie for her support, realizing how naturally they're starting to fight as a team. This incident immediately prompts Marie to ask why he has been learning swordsmanship from Phil, even though he's already overpowered without weapons. Elt then explains that while his evil beam is powerful, it's not always practical in close quarters, and worse, it could endanger his allies. That's why he focuses on strengthening his sword skills instead of relying only on magic. Meanwhile, back at the village chief's treehouse, Serena is peeling an orange but is lost in thought, clearly troubled. Phil, coming out of the bathroom, notices her unease and asks what's wrong. Serena claims it's nothing and immediately changes the subject, asking why he's been training so late these days. Phil explains that he can't afford to lose to Elt and admits that Elt, who was once a novice, is now rapidly growing stronger in swordsmanship with each passing day. When Serena asks if he feels Elt is kind of weirdo, Phil agrees, explaining that normal humans don't go around slaying a bloody ogre and making a pact with a spirit king. And even more shocking, the young man has been wandering inside the dangerous forest of confusion like it's Walmart. Serena agrees with everything he said, but insists she doesn't think Elt is a bad person. When Phil seriously asks if she's considering leaving with him, Serena quickly denies it. She smiles faintly, saying she can't abandon their sick father, even though deep in her heart, the feeling is different. Serena finds herself lost in thoughts about Elt and how, from the very first day they met, she couldn't take her eyes off him. She recalls how every word and action of his stirred new emotions inside her, though she struggled to understand them. Friends once teased her about not having a boyfriend despite her popularity, suggesting she should secretly meet someone. But Serena knew the truth. She didn't fully grasp what it meant to like someone until now. Now she understands without a doubt that she is drawn to Elt. Whenever he mentions wanting to return home, the thought of losing him weighs heavily on her. And when he speaks of other girls, especially his childhood friend, her heart aches with jealousy. Quietly, Serena admits to herself that she is in love with him. But then, doubts creep in. While cooking, Serena calls herself an idiot for thinking she could mean more to Elt than just a stranger he once helped. She wonders if this really is goodbye, knowing Elt is resolute once he sets his mind on something. Just then, Elt enters the house with a bundle of freshly gathered Bulmari herbs, proudly assuring her that none of the poisonous lookalikes are mixed in. Serena is moved by his thoughtfulness, but the emotions swelling inside her become too much. Before Elt can finish his words, she runs off to hide her conflicted feelings. That evening, the elves celebrate under the giant tree, feasting together in gratitude toward Elt for his efforts. The lively atmosphere fills the village, and Yomi thanks Elt for the herbs and food he has helped gather for them. Meanwhile, Serena can only drink in silence, weighed down by the thought of Elt's departure. At the peak of the banquet, Yomi finally announces that Elt will be leaving the village the next day. Even though no one wants that, unfortunately, it can't be helped. The words strike Serena like a blade, and her heart immediately sinks as she realizes their time together is coming to an end. Trying to hold herself together, Serena grabs a bottle of wine to join in the toast for Elt's safe journey. But the strain proves too much. Overwhelmed by her emotions, she suddenly starts gulping down the whole bottle like a crazed drunkard with liver failure, leaving everyone shocked and calling out her name. The following morning, Serena wakes to find herself in bed. Her head throbs from a severe hangover, her thoughts tangled from the night before. She remembers trying to say goodbye to Elt, but yet everything after is a haze as her memories are in shambles. She immediately recalls Elt leaving after the ceremony, so she scrambles out of bed, desperate to send him off properly. When she rushes to the gathering, the villagers are already assembled. Elt stands there, but when their eyes meet, he quickly looks away. Serena freezes, confused by his distant behavior. Everyone starts talking about her boldness last night, leaving her both embarrassed and bewildered. Then all of a sudden, Elt calls out to her, and with a nervous but warm smile, extends his hand, saying he'll be in her care. Serena can hardly process the words as she wonders if she somehow agreed to travel with him while drunk, but that doesn't stop her heart from swelling with happiness. When she demands an explanation, Marie bluntly reveals that last night Serena had clung to Elt, crying like a baby, confessing her love and begging to go with him. Hearing this, Serena's face turns crimson, wishing the ground would swallow her whole. But when she recalls her father's illness, Yomi excitedly reveals that while she was passed out, Elt healed him completely, so he is now as fit as Ashton Hall. Serena realizes the sacrifice she once bore no longer binds her. Relieved and overwhelmed, Serena accepts her father's blessing to go see the world with Elt. Elt then holds out his hand once more, asking if she's ready, and this time Serena takes it, her heart racing as she silently vows to stay by his side. With her family and friends watching proudly through teary eyes, Serena glances back one last time, shouting her farewell and promising to return someday. Together, with Marie cheerfully trailing behind, they step out of the village as the journey to Elt's hometown begins. And as they walk forward, Serena steals a kiss from Elt, whispering for him to take care of her, making the shy boy blush all over. Marie happily hums to herself while skipping through the forest, clearly enjoying the journey. Elt points out that it's her first time traveling in thousands of years, and then asks Serena if it's her first time too. Serena confirms it is and quietly admits that it feels fine as long as he's with them. Since Serena isn't familiar with the lands outside the forest, Marie takes the lead as their guide. When she confidently declares that the exit is this way, Serena wonders how the dragon girl even knows where to go. Marie proudly answers that the nearby spirits guide her, reminding them that she's the Spirit King. Elt praises her, while Serena grows uneasy, realizing she hasn't been able to contribute much and starts feeling like a useless burden. Suddenly, a massive one-eyed winged monster swoops down and snatches Serena up into the air. She struggles in the monster's grip, yelling for it to let her go, but the creature continues to lift her higher. Elt immediately reacts in shock and draws his sword. But out of reflex, he accidentally activates his stock ability on the monster, and to his surprise, gains a new reflexive skill called the Eye of Analysis. With this skill, Elt instantly learns the monster's stats. Its name is revealed as Blood Eye, a level 522 beast, with weaknesses to light attribute attacks and its exposed eyeball. As the Blood Eye tightens its grip on Serena, Marie nervously jokes that Elt might as well take advantage of the situation and stock up on new skills. Serena, however, panics and screams at them not to joke while she's in danger. So Elt strikes the monster's huge eyeball and brings it down in one clean blow. With the battle over, Serena apologizes for causing trouble, but Elt tells her it's fine, pointing out that thanks to her, he managed to acquire a brand new skill. The Eye of Analysis. Curious, Elt wonders if this ability works on more than just monsters, so to test it, he turns the eye toward Serena. To his shock, her stats appear. She's revealed as an elf spirit user, level 250 with maxed out spirit summoning. Her attraction value is impossibly high at 1,000, and her weaknesses are embarrassingly specific: her ears and jugular vein. Elt immediately freaks out and quickly hides his reaction. Serena, noticing his expression, demands to know if he's angry at her or something, but he stammers out an excuse, leaving her flustered and embarrassed. At that moment, Marie suddenly senses a dark spirit lurking in the shadows. When Elt asks what's wrong, she explains that it's strange to find such spirits in this forest, since they usually dwell in graveyards and wastelands, not in a place overflowing with natural energy. Elt suggests they trail it, and soon they stumble into a grove where strange inscriptions mark the trees. To anyone else, it would seem like a normal forest, but in truth, there's more hidden inside. Marie, intrigued, insists something special must be concealed inside and bluntly suggests they destroy the forest. When Elt hesitates at the reckless idea, she warns him this isn't something they can ignore. If the barrier remains, it could threaten the elf village. Convinced, Elt steps forward and tells the others to stay back. Raising his hand, he gathers power and unleashes a massive fire tornado. The spell rips through the barrier, burning away the illusions with overwhelming force and opening a hidden path in the forest. Moving closer inside this path, the group stumbles upon a strange field filled with rainbow carrots shining with a prismatic glow. Marie immediately lights up, recognizing them as legendary vegetables, and insists they harvest everything. Elt hesitates, wondering if it's okay since the field clearly belongs to demons. But Marie argues that demons would only use them for something bad anyway, so they might as well take them for the sake of the world. Elt finally agrees, using his stock ability to harvest every single rainbow carrot in the field. Later that night, everyone enjoys a meal cooked with the rainbow carrots. The taste blows Marie away, and she declares it a masterpiece, while Serena thanks them, glad she decided to join the feastful journey. As they eat, Elt learns more about the carrots. They're extremely rare, only growing in places with high magical energy, and explorers are always desperate to find them. The demons, it seems, were cultivating the carrots in bulk by exploiting the natural magic of the forest for some unknown purpose. That night, Serena and Marie fall asleep together after a long day, and Elt watches over them with a soft smile. He's glad they're warming up to each other. Still, his thoughts drift to Alicia, wondering how she's doing now. Meanwhile, Alicia herself is on her own journey with the princess. It's been 2 weeks since leaving Irkutsk, and though she feels refreshed, she admits she wishes the journey were under better circumstances. However, Princess Alice assures her that they will be arriving Eruvian the next day so she can finally sleep in a soft bed. Noticing Alicia's fading energy, Alice grows concerned, sensing she must be anxious about meeting Elt. To lighten the mood, she starts teasing Alicia about her relationship with him, asking if they've kissed yet. Alicia instantly gets flustered by the sudden question and denies it, insisting she and Elt are just childhood friends with no clapping involved. But Princess Alice disagrees, insisting there's no way the young man would sacrifice his life for her without having tasted her honeypot. When the princess presses further, saying Elt's actions prove he loves her, Alicia blushes furiously and screams for her to stop. Finally, Alice pauses and asks about her own feelings toward Elt. Alicia admits softly that Elt is clumsy but kind, someone who hides his loneliness yet has the courage to face adversity. Deep down, she admires him more than she can say. Still, she hides it, insisting Elt feels more like family to her. Seeing her obvious feelings, Alice smirks and teases that maybe she doesn't actually like him after all, leaving Alicia flushing red. Suddenly, the carriage is attacked by a ferocious wolf. Alice immediately steps out, her blade drawn, and in one smooth motion she takes down the beast. Outside, she realizes her knights are already wounded, and the pack of snarling wolves has them surrounded. Princess Alice wastes no time. She launches forward with precision, her strikes clean and merciless. One after another, wolves fall, her sword cutting through their aggression like nothing. For the last wolf, she uses a special technique known as Royal Bash, which slices clean through the beast and scatters it instantly. Alicia, watching from inside the carriage, is blown away by the elegance of the princess's fighting. The way she moves feels almost otherworldly. When the battle ends, Alice calmly sheathes her sword and reminds everyone, including herself, that they cannot afford to lower their guard again. Alicia sits in silence, realizing just how charismatic Alice truly is despite being her peer in age. Later, as the group regathers, Alice asks Alicia to heal the injured knights, and she immediately obeys. That night by the campfire, Princess Alice checks on Alicia, noticing her troubled expression. She asks if Alicia regrets coming along, and Alicia hesitates, unsure of what to say. Alice tells her that if she's uncertain, it's best she return home, warning that without determination she can't continue this journey. The princess's words cut deep, but they also push Alicia to steel her resolve. With that, Alicia declares that no matter what, she will continue this journey until she sees Elt again. This makes Alice laugh lightly and suggest they rest. Meanwhile, Elt and the girls finally step out of the endless forest and follow along the riverbank until the scenery opens up. Their faces suddenly light up when they see a human town in the distance, excited they've finally arrived at civilization. However, their anticipation dims at the gates when the guards enforce strict entry restrictions and the crowd murmurs about how the town is preparing for royalty to pass through. Amid the gathering, a luxurious carriage rolls by, drawing everyone's attention. Elt watches it leave silently, wondering who the passenger inside could be, unaware that it's Alicia and the princess. The crowd at the gate makes it impossible for Elt and the girls to enter the city. Marie stays hidden, not fond of large crowds, while Serena nervously clings to Elt. But Elt reassures her with confidence, telling her not to worry, that he'll protect her. Serena's heart softens at his words, though she tries her best to stay composed. Turning to the side, Elt notices a group of people gathered in one spot and wonders why. A nosy Karen, whom no one asked, pipes up and explains that they're merchants selling rare foreign goods of high value. This sparks a business idea in Elt's mind, so he pulls out one rainbow carrot and asks if he can also sell it. But the moment the crowd lays eyes on the rare rainbow carrot, they instantly freak out. Meanwhile, inside the city, Alicia's group formally checks in, and the guards confirm the king's letter, granting them passage. Princess Alice reminds everyone that this town, Gator, is only a checkpoint. Their true goal lies ahead in the royal capital, where they'll seek permission to investigate the Forest of Confusion, and Alicia nods firmly, determined to press forward for Elt's sake. But outside, the scene is heating up. Elt quickly finds himself mobbed by demands and gold offers. Serena panics at the chaos, while Elt grows worn out. He never expected the vegetable would be so popular on this side and realizes he acted too recklessly. On the brighter side, he manages to make enough funds to cover both their living and travel expenses for a couple of days. With that, they head into an inn to rent a room for the night. At the counter, the cheerful receptionist shows them the price list, explaining they have both single and double rooms. Scanning the list, Elt notices the double room is way cheaper than getting two singles. Still, he requests two singles, which startles Serena. When she reminds him that they're broke and can't afford such luxury, Elt insists they have just enough to cover the cost. But then his brain finally starts working, and he realizes she might be right, so he changes his mind and opts for the double room. The receptionist then shows them to the room, and before settling in, Serena apologizes if she came off as selfish earlier. Elt tells her it's fine, saying he understands that being in the human world for the first time must be scary. But Serena smirks, admitting he's right, and then whispers in his ear that the only reason she insisted on a double room was because she didn't want to be separated from him, causing Elt to completely freak out. Later that night, Elt suggests sending a letter to his hometown before leaving the city, since it's the fastest way to let everyone know he's still alive. He explains that the letter should be addressed to Alicia specifically. If she reads it, she might even come meet them where they are. Serena immediately pouts, questioning why the letter has to be addressed to Alicia. Elt admits that Alicia is the only one he can rely on since his parents died when he was a child. He recalls how Alicia's parents cared for him, and how over time they grew up like family. But before he can finish his pathetic backstory, Serena shuts him up by suffocating him against her elven hills. She comforts him, assuring him he's not alone anymore, and with a faint smile whispers that she's here with him. Elt is caught off guard by her warmth, stunned as she holds his face tenderly. Trying to shake off the moment, he quickly changes the subject, suggesting it's time for dinner. At the table, Serena's eyes sparkle as she enjoys the human food, marveling at flavors so different from elven cuisine. Later that night, she pairs the dishes with alcohol, insisting that Elt drink with her. Elt warns her not to overdo it, but she brushes it off, happily enjoying herself. The following morning, Elt wakes with a pounding headache, suffering from a brutal hangover. As he tries to regain his balance, he accidentally uses Serena's melons as leverage, causing her to wake. Elt immediately panics and apologizes profusely for his action, but Serena, to his surprise, doesn't seem angry at all. Shortly afterwards, as they leave the inn, Elt continues to apologize for his reckless action, but Serena tells him it's fine and he doesn't need to keep apologizing. Moreover, she says it's not like she minds, and with a seductive wink, she adds that if he wants to get a feel next time, he should at least seek her permission first. They soon head to the Stagecoach Association, where the bearded smoking officer in charge informs them that few coaches will be departing the following week. However, without proper identification, they will never be able to cross the border. He explains that at every checkpoint, identification is verified to ensure wanted criminals or flagged individuals don't slip through. Shocked, Serena asks how they can obtain identification. The officer explains that there are only two conditions. The first is by reaching a certain rank in the Adventurers Guild, which can then serve as an official identification. Elt nearly loses his sanity when he hears the second condition. It's only for the big boys who can pay 120,000 bills straight up. Still, the officer calmly explains it's simply the price of credibility. Now the two discuss what to do next. Elt insists that crossing the border without permission would cause problems later, so they should follow the rules. Serena suggests they just find a guild and join, but Elt explains that it will take time to raise their ranks high enough. When Serena then suggests selling more rainbow carrots, Elt points out that flooding the market would collapse the price. At this point, Serena feels useless since her suggestions keep being rejected, but Elt pats her head, telling her he knows she only suggested them with his best interest at heart. After weighing both options, Elt finally decides they should register as adventurers. When they arrive at the Adventurers Guild, Elt is listed as a swordsman while Serena is recognized as a spirit user. The guild receptionist explains everything they need to know about the guild and how it works. She tells them that as newbies they will start at the lowest level, rank F. When Elt asks which rank is required for identification, she answers rank C. She also adds that to advance to the next rank, they need to complete 10 quests of the appropriate rank. Elt quickly realizes they'll need to complete 30 bloody quests before reaching rank C. Desperate, Serena asks if there's a way to increase their rank faster. The receptionist admits there is. If they defeat a disaster-level monster that causes significant damage, they may advance several ranks as an exception. However, such monsters are extremely rare. With that, she excuses herself, wishing them success in their endeavors. Feeling desolate, Elt and Serena leave the guild to begin their first quest when they suddenly bump into a scary dude that looks like a criminal that only robs candy shops and his crew. At first, Elt feels wary, but the man introduces himself as Russell. Despite his intimidating look, he and his group are actually kind, and they take he and Serena out on their first goblin subjugation quest. During the fight, Elt charges forward and defeats goblins with growing confidence. His achievement is acknowledged, and Russell congratulates him, explaining that goblins near the plains are a real threat to the city. Serena also helps gather herbs, earning the group's praise. By the end, Elt realizes Russell's team are experienced B-rank adventurers who enjoy guiding rookies. What started as suspicion turns into gratitude, as Russell offers to keep giving them tips for completing quests. With the quest completed, Russell then suggests they head back to the guild, and then offer to buy Elt drinks to celebrate completing his first quest. Later at the guild, Elt and Alicia enjoy the company of their new companions, finding them much livelier than expected. Even though their leader looks like a criminal, Russell's team reassures that he means well. For a moment, everything feels light and fortunate, as if luck has finally favored them. But back at the forest, something far more sinister brews. A demon prowls through the fields and discovers that the rainbow carrots, every last one of them, are gone. Furious, the beast snarls and vows revenge. He declares that whoever dared to touch the crops will pay the price. The following day, Elt sits quietly, writing a letter addressed to Alicia. He wonders how to even begin, but insists this isn't a prank, and then starts by informing her that he is alive. He writes about the day he faced the evil god, and how, just before being struck down, a unique skill awoke within him, allowing him to escape the castle and survive. Elt explains in the letter that for now, he's in Jadal, the second city of the Aravan Kingdom, where he has joined the Adventurers Guild to earn money and secure a travel permit. He urges Alicia to believe him and wait. To prove the letter isn't false, he swears he'll return to Irkutsk. Once sealed, Elt hands the letter to a courier and watches the man fly away to deliver it. Just then, Marie suddenly pops into view, startling him. She teases him about the letter, while Elt greets her warmly, glad to see her back. When Elt complains about her floating around like a ghost, Marie explains that most humans can't see her unless she chooses to appear. She admits it's troublesome, since humans tend to chase after her whenever they see her. But since she and Elt are linked, she vanishes into his mind to speak to him directly. With guidance from Russell's party, Elt and Serena are able to grow quickly in skill and experience, and soon they are taking on 3 requests a day. On a quest, Serena harvests mushrooms with care, leaving some behind, while Marie warns Elt of a monster approaching from behind. A massive worm suddenly bursts from the shadows, but Elt reacts fast, slicing through the beast in one motion. When Russell praises his awareness, impressed by how he spotted a blind spot attack, Elt giggles, noting that thanks to Marie it was easy to scout. With the quest completed, Russell acknowledges their progress, amazed they've advanced so far in just 1 week. But Elt brushes off the compliments, saying it's thanks to him and his team for teaching them so well. Just then, Serena shows up after completing her own quest, and with a warm smile, suggests that maybe completing quests and living as adventurers might not be too bad. Her words leave Elt thoughtful, and he quietly agrees that it might be a good idea. Serena's face immediately lights up, thrilled by his answer, but Elt finds himself lost in thought. He admits silently that back in his hometown, he never had any dreams for the future, because becoming a farmer was simply the only option he had. A few years ago, all his friends awakened their skills one by one, but he had none. Around that same time, Alicia's healer ability awakened. Her power was strong, so strong that she was warned of the danger. The more she used it, the more she risked being seen as a sacrifice by the evil god. She was advised to keep it a secret, but since Alicia couldn't watch people suffer, she chose to heal. Pressing her hands to her heart, she declared she would use her power for the sake of others. Meanwhile, he watched from the shadows, sitting alone, wishing for strength of his own, hoping that if he had power, he could distract the evil god's attention away from Alicia. But his prayers went unanswered, and he was left with no abilities. Because of this, everyone around him began to treat him as a disposable farmer with no future and slowly drifted away, everyone except Alicia. But now, things have changed. With a tightened fist, Elt resolves that he can finally use his stock ability to help others. Later that day at the guild, Elt reports his completed quest, and it gets stamped and confirmed at the counter. With that, the receptionist happily congratulates them and announces that Elt and Serena have reached D rank. Russell and his crew immediately burst into cheers, and it's also announced that their speed placed them among the fastest to rise in guild history. Excited, Russell immediately suggests they celebrate the promotion to D rank, so they fill a table with ale and drink to their heart's content. Elt tries to pay, but the seniors refuse. It's tradition, veterans take care of newcomers, and one day, they expect Elt and Serena to carry that tradition forward. Following that, Russell leans in with a steady look and tells Elt that with undeniable talent like his, if they achieve enough, they could even be called to the Royal Guard. He adds that with higher rank comes rewards and reputation, but also dangerous quests and stronger enemies. Elt, in turn, then asks the scarred-faced veteran why he chose to continue being an adventurer despite how dangerous it is. The room immediately falls silent before Russell finally replies that there are a few reasons. Russell admits that in the past he used to be a clumsy craftsman. Not only that, his ugly face made it difficult for him to keep any job, so he ran out of options and became an adventurer. Sure, adventuring is dangerous, but Russell admits he doesn't regret it one bit and is actually fulfilled helping others. And for the last but most important reason, Russell leans in close to his comrades with a wide smile and wraps his arm around them, admitting that adventuring had brought him the best partners, people he could trust with his life. He then reminds Elt that even if this job is only a step toward a goal, the experiences and bonds built along the way are treasures worth holding onto, and Elt nods firmly. Later, Serena and Elt return to Marie with food from the restaurant. Marie, sulking, complains about being called over like a pet, but her mood quickly shifts once the smell of fried fish reaches her. She starts devouring the strange dish like an animal, her eyes lighting up at the crunch and flavor, while Serena, laughing, explains it's fish wrapped in beer batter. Elt watches them with a faint smile, quietly thinking how lively their little group has become. The thought of all three of them adventuring together feels exciting, and the idea of one day inviting Alicia into this circle makes that future seem even brighter. The next morning, Serena's voice carries her usual energy as she rallies them to take on more quests. But when they arrive at the guild, the hall is unusually crowded with adventurers, all murmuring with anticipation. The receptionist announces that the request this time can only be accepted by D rank and above, which explains the unusual gathering. Elt glances around, curious to know what the heck is going on. Just then, they spot Russell among the crowd. He explains that the request came directly from the royal capital, adding that the capital seems to be gathering all the skilled adventurers they can find for some kind of urgent quest. When Russell finally takes a look at the quest information, his already ugly face twists even more as he reveals that the mission is to investigate the lost woods in the north, shocking both Elt and Serena. Later on, in the Lost Forest, nearly 200 adventurers gather, and Alice is surprised at the scale of the mission. Alicia, on the other hand, can hardly believe how serious the investigation of the Lost Woods has become. From the nearby tent, King of Irvian steps forward, explaining that his country too has received troubling reports about strange happenings within the forest, and then points out that now is the perfect time to unite forces and conduct a large-scale joint investigation. Hearing this, Alicia begins to worry. She never expected Irvian itself to be involved and quietly wonders what could have possibly occurred in that forest to demand such a response. Just as the Irvian king leaves, Alice vents about how she had wanted to search for Elt herself, but the duty of being a state guest tied her hands. At least their guards were able to join the mission, though that gave her little comfort. Alicia, lost in thought, sinks into her seat with worry, thinking of Elt. Perhaps he is still somewhere deep within that forest. All she can do now is wait and cling to the hope of finding him again. Riding on a wagon on his way to the lost land, Elt suddenly feels a strange tug on his heart, and then turns, as though someone had called to him. Serena notices his unease and asks if he is worried. Elt tries to shake it off, but Serena asks if the recent strange events in the forest might have been tied to the rainbow carrot field they discovered earlier. Elt, however, doubts it, insisting demons were already involved there, and that destroying the corrupted barrier had been the right decision. Still, the weight of responsibility presses on him. If the disturbances are connected to his battle with the evil god, then he feels the consequences are his to face. Meanwhile, soldiers assemble the adventurers and begin outlining the mission. They reveal that powerful monsters have been spilling from the lost woods into nearby lands, causing danger even in the plains. The adventurers are ordered to serve as backup, supporting the soldiers while pushing deeper into the forest. The instructions are clear. Groups of 5, formed by towns, moving north over a 3-day journey toward the forest center. Anything beyond that is uncharted, and only if clear evidence is found will the soldiers dare to venture further. The mission is dangerous, and the soldiers remind everyone that their performance will be closely observed. By the end, Russell is chosen unanimously as their leader, but the adventurers whisper among themselves, feeling as though they are being used as pawns while the soldiers avoid the worst of the fighting. Still, Russell's presence brings reassurance. His companions remind one another of how he had once been offered a soldier's position but refused, choosing instead to guide and protect those under his care. Yet his dream has always been to be a soldier, and this could be his last chance, given his age. Fired up, Russell's team is determined to make him look good enough to finally achieve that dream. Elt listens quietly, realizing just how admired Russell truly is. Russell suddenly catches them whispering, but they brush it off nervously, keeping the secret between themselves. Following Russell's orders, the large group splits into smaller units and pushes deeper into the forest. The first group clashes with forest wolves, then a scaled bull with sharp horns. Russell charges first, planting his feet and taking down the bull with raw strength. As another monster follows, Elt joins in, seizing the second bull's horns and forcing it down. Working together, they hold both beasts in place while their allies shout and unleash spells. Flames roar as fire magic sweeps across the battlefield, burning through the monsters. As the group catches their breath after the clash, some adventurers look at Elt with surprise. They had worried about fighting alongside someone so young, but now they admit he is more skilled than they expected. Still, Elt's thoughts grow heavier. So far, only familiar monsters have shown up, but he wonders if he can protect so many people once stronger foes appear. Later, at camp, Serena cooks while the others rest. Russell apologizes for leaving the task to her, but she assures him she enjoys cooking. The moment of calm is broken when a proud fatso barges in, demanding food loudly. He calls Serena out directly, scolding her for making him wait. The others whisper that he is Drosmux, the kingdom's soldier captain and their party's auditor. Serena is just about to give the mofo a piece of her mind when Elt holds her back. When she asks why, Elt explains that Russell is relying on them to help him become a soldier, so they don't need to act recklessly. Serena agrees to cooperate, but grumbles that she might start to dislike humans. However, Elt reminds her that people should be judged individually, and she admits there are good humans too. 2 days later, the group reaches the dark entrance of their investigation site. There, Elt carries the strain of the battle quietly, but his shoulders feel heavy. Drosmux, meanwhile, spends the march barking orders without lifting a finger. Later, Elt finds Serena sitting against a tree, so he hands her a carrot and urges her to regain her strength. When Serena questions whether Russell's dream of becoming a soldier is worth it if it means serving under a proud fool like Drosmux, Elt frowns, unable to answer. Suddenly, Marie alerts Elt that something powerful is approaching. From the sky, an archdemon descends, causing everyone to panic. Some urge retreat, but Drosmux refuses to back down, his pride blinding him to the danger. Russell tries reasoning with him, warning that hesitation means death for his subordinates, but the noble only grows more furious. Elt then steps forward, realizing it is already too late. The archdemon lands with crushing force, grinning with rows of jagged teeth. It declares itself one of the 13 demon generals under the command of the Demon Lord, and then call them foolish for walking into his trap. Archdemon V's Elt, place your bets? Comment stock if you're hyped to see what happens next in Part 2. If you enjoyed this video, drop a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content. Thanks for watching, as always.